Chapter 3, Lesson 4, Comparing and Ordering Whole Numbers and Decimals. The example here says the table shows some of the populations of the largest cities in the United States in 2005 as estimated by the U.S. Census Bureau. Which city had a greater population, Phoenix or Philadelphia? So we look at both Phoenix and Philadelphia. Step 1 is to line them up and then look at their place values. So we line them up evenly, then we look at their place values. So 1 and 1 are the same, 4 and 4 is the same, 6 and 6, then we get to 3 and 1. So 3 is greater than 1, so that tells us that 1,463,281 is greater than 1,461,575, which is right down here. So sometimes the numbers are easy to see, sometimes they have to really kind of look through it carefully, so this is the best way for them to do that. They can use this same method to order 3 or more numbers. For example, here it says order the populations of Chicago, Houston, and Los Angeles from greatest to least. So we get the populations that were up above, we line them up like we did here, and we start looking at the numbers. The greatest number is 3,844,829, so we know that's the biggest one. So then we look at the remaining 2 numbers. We compare the digits starting from the left, and 8 is greater than 0. So 2,842,582 is greater than the other one. Then we can line them up from greatest to least, which is right here. And sometimes they'll ask you to put it from least to greatest. So just be careful and make sure you read carefully what they're asking you to do. Whole numbers are pretty easy to figure out, but the decimals is where people will have trouble with. Here it says you can use the same steps to compare and order decimals. Order 4, 4.32, or 4 and 32 hundredths, and 4 and 317 thousandths from least to greatest. Now it says align the decimal points. Write zeros if necessary to make the same number of decimal places. So here we're comparing 4 and 32 hundredths, and 4 and 317 thousandths. So here we added the 4, and like I tell the kids, every number has a decimal point, you just don't see it. Think of money. That's 4, but when you want to have $4.25, you have a decimal point, you add change. So like they did there, we have 4, we put the decimal and added 3 zeros, so we could line it up with 4 and 32 and a 0. And I'm going to make these red so we can see what we did. And then we have 4 and 317 thousandths. So the numbers in black are what they give us. We add the zeros. That way we can make it come up, line up the decimals, and then from there we can compare. So we start from the left. Compare the digits. So out of these 3, we can see that 4 is going to be the least amount. Then we compare the next 2 digits, the next 2 numbers. And we got 4 and 4, 3 and 3. And we got 2 and 1. So the next smallest number is going to be 4 and 317 thousandths. And if you look down here, from least to greatest, we got 4, 4 and 317 thousandths, 4 and 32 hundredths, because we don't need that 0. Just because a number has more digits in it does not mean that it's greater. And a good example is 432 and 4 317. Because once you add a 0 to this one, you have 320 and you have 317, so this one is bigger. So let's check out number 3, 734,556 and 734,655. So we want to line up the numbers. And then start comparing. 7, 3, 4, 5. So here we go, 5 and 6. 6 is greater than 5, so this number would be greater. So the answer for number 2 would be 734,556 is less than 734,655. Number 6 says, order each set of numbers from greatest to least, so from biggest to smallest. Again, you want to put these numbers, line them up with each other. And then we can start comparing. We've got 18, 2, here we go, 209. You want greatest to least. So this one would be my biggest number, 18,299. The next biggest is going to be the 2, so 18,229. And then the last number is 18,209. So that will be for number 6. This is not on their homework, but I want them to see how to compare decimals. Again, we want to make sure each number has the same amount of digits so it's easy to compare. So I have 3.4 or 3 and 4 tenths, 3 and 377 thousandths, and 3 and 4 hundredths. Now just looking at this, a lot of kids want to say that this is the biggest number because it has the most digits. But that's why it's important that we add zeros. If I add a 0 here, this is basically saying about 40. But when I add it to 3.4, now when I compare these two, 400 is greater than 377. So if I want these in order from greatest to least, I would say 3.4 is the biggest, followed by 3.377, followed by 3.04. So that's why it's important that they line up the decimals and add zeros. And that is all for lesson 4.